Today, we're also considering the nominations of Lauren Alicon to be the Associate Judge of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, John P. Howard III to be the Associate Judge of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, and Adrian Jennings Noti to be Associate Judge of the District of Columbia Superior Court. I'm going to be brief. These three nominees are highly qualified and are ready to fill these important roles. I'd like to note that the committee has received many letters in support of Ms. Alicon's nomination to the D.C. Court of Appeals, including from a bipartisan group of more than 30 state solicitors general. Without objection, I will enter these letters into the record. I hope my colleagues will join me in advancing these nominations today, but before we proceed, I'd like to recognize Ranking Member Portman for any comments that he makes, and hope other of my colleagues could defer any comments unless essential, so we could get moving on to the business of the day. Ranking Member Portman.
Great. Thanks, Chairman Peters. I appreciate you working with us on this Federal Secure Cloud Improvement and Jobs Act of 2021. This is the one that codifies the Fedramp program. Remember, this is a really critical program because it allows the federal government to have a standard approach to security and risk assessment for cloud services. And as we've seen even this week, with more attacks on federal government systems, this is incredibly important. You will recall we pulled this legislation from a markup several weeks ago to take time to better understand and improve the bill, and I appreciate the chairman pulling it at that time. We actually held a roundtable on Fedramp, which I thought was very constructive, and I'm glad we took the time to get this legislation right. The roundtable highlighted the need for reforms to address weaknesses in Fedramp that leave the program vulnerable otherwise to foreign-backed hackers from countries like China and Russia. I believe our substitute amendment is a good step forward toward addressing those issues and improving the security of cloud systems in the federal government generally. We also have 3 judicial nominations before us today. I plan to support the nominations of Ms. Alicon and Judge Howard to be associate judges on the D.C. Court of Appeals. I do believe that they are qualified, as was mentioned earlier. I mentioned during their confirmation hearing, the court system has an important role to play in addressing the district's most pressing issues, including the recent increase in violent crime, and got commitments from them that they are prepared to take on this role. I will not be supporting the other judge, Judge Noti's nomination to the D.C. Superior Court. Based on her prior views, I have strong concerns that Judge Noti has argued there should be no obligation for attorneys to report child abuse in situations involving domestic violence because, among other reasons, she indicated it might cause the family to undergo intrusive government investigations. If a child's being abused, the family should be investigated. She also argues that it could increase violence, but that would be true for anyone required to report abuse. Given the D.C. Superior Court's important role in family law cases, I believe these views are relevant, and I believe they're quite troubling. So thank you, Chairman Peters. I look forward to our discussion today.
Thank you, Ranking Member Portman. I understand that members have asked for a roll call vote for the nomination of Adrian Jennings Noti to be the Associate Judge of the District of Columbia Superior Court. We'll proceed to consider this nomination first. The question is on whether to report Judge Noti's nomination. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Carper. Aye. Senator Hassan. Aye. Senator Sinema. Aye. Senator Rosen. Aye. Senator Padilla. Aye. Senator Ossoff. Aye. Senator Portman.
No.
Senator Johnston.
Nothing on record.
Senator Paul.
No by proxy.
Senator Lankford. Senator Romney. No. Senator Scott. No. Senator Hawley. No. Senator Peters.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, on the vote of those present, the yeas are 7, the nays are 5. On the vote by proxy, and for the record only, the yeas are 0, the nays are 2. On this vote, the yeas are 7, the nays are 5, and the motion to report the nominee is agreed to.
The nomination is favorably reported to the Senate. The committee will now proceed to the consideration of 2 additional nominations. I ask unanimous consent that we consider reporting the following nominations en bloc: Lauren Alicon to be the Associate Judge of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, and John Howard III to be the Associate Judge of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals. Hearing no objection, all those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed will say nay.
Nay.
The majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the ayes have it, and the nominations are reported favorably to the Senate. Senator Scott.
Chair Peters, can you mark me down as no for both of them?
you will be so recorded.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Hawley.
I'd like to be recorded no for Ms. Ali Khan.
You will be recorded as such. Well, we will now proceed to the consideration of S-3099. I ask unanimous consent that the committee consider the Peters, Hawley, Hassan, Portman substitute amendment as modified as the underlying bill. I'd certainly like to thank Ranking Member Portman for working with us on our roundtable earlier this month, where representatives from government and industry provided valuable insights on the Fedramp program, secure cloud adoption trends in the federal government, and additional areas for our committee to consider as we move forward on this bill. I would certainly urge my colleagues to support the modified substitute amendment and the underlying bill. Does any member wish to offer an amendment?
Mr. Chairman, call up Ossoff Amendment 1 as modified.
We will now proceed to consideration of Ossoff Amendment number 1 as modified.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a simple and straightforward amendment to give Congress greater visibility into supply chain threats posed by hackers and foreign intelligence services in the federal cloud. I thank the chairman and the ranking member and their teams for their assistance as I've drafted this amendment, and commend the chair, ranking member, and co-sponsors of the underlying bill as well for this initiative to codify the Fedramp program. Again, my amendment adds visibility for Congress through additional reporting with respect to supply chain risks and threats to the federal cloud posed by hackers and foreign intelligence services. Happy to answer any questions on it, and barring any objections and with the ranking member's support and the chairman's support, would ask that we proceed with a voice vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Ranking Member Portman.
I support this reporting requirement and a voice vote. I also want to thank Senator Hawley and Senator Hassan for their work on the underlying legislation.
Thank you. As if there's no further debate on the amendment as modified, the question is on its adoption. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Majority of the members having present voted in the affirmative. The amendment as modified is agreed to. The affirmative have it. The amendment as modified is agreed to.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Some additional remarks with respect to this amendment that I ask unanimous consent be entered into the record.
So moved, without objection. If there is no further debate or amendment, the question is now on final passage of S-3099 as amended. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The majority of the members present having voted in the affirmative, the ayes have it. The bill is reported favorably. The committee will now proceed to the consideration of 5 postal naming bills. If there's no further debate, I ask unanimous consent that we consider reporting the following postal naming bills en bloc. S-2932 to designate the facility of the United States Postal Service located at 430 South Knowles Avenue in New Richmond, Wisconsin, as the Captain Robert C. Harmon and Private John Pearson Post Office Building. H.R. 767 to designate the facility of the United States Postal Service located at 40 Fulton Street in Middletown, New York, as the Benjamin A. Gilman Post Office Building. H.R. 1170 to designate the facility of the United States Postal Service located at 1 League in Irving, California, as the Tuskegee Airman Lieutenant Colonel Robert J. Friend Memorial Post Office Building. H.R. 1444 to designate the facility of the United States Postal Service located at 132 North London Street, Suite 1 in Winchester, Virginia, as the Patsy Cline Post Office. And H.R. 3210 to designate the facility of the United States Postal Service located at 1905 15th Street in Boulder, Colorado, as the Officer Eric H. Talley Post Office Building. Hearing no objection to all those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the ayes have it. The measure is reported favorably to the Senate. That concludes
before we adjourn, could I just
the votes. Any member have a comment? Senator
Carter. A lifelong fan of Patsy Cline. I want to say it was with special pleasure I voted for name a post office after her. You know, a lot of times the people that we name, whether it's post offices or other federal buildings, are deceased. And in the Environment and Public Works Committee, Senator Capito and I were holding a mock-up last month, and we were voting on whether to name a federal building in Wheeling, West Virginia, for Judge Stamp. Judge Stamp. And I said to her, I said, you know, it's too bad it's not a post office. And a name like Stamp, you know, that would be just really too funny. And so she said, well, there is a post office in the building. So I said, well, is Judge Stamp still alive? And she said, he is. And long story short, last week I talked to him, and we vote for all these postal naming bills and these other naming bills. And we almost never talked to the people that are involved. I called Judge Stamp. We had just a lovely conversation. He could not have been nicer or more grateful and appreciative. He asked me to wish all of you a Merry Christmas.
Wonderful. Thank you, Senator. Any other senator will have a comment? Senator Langford?
For the record, would that make him a Christmas stamp if he said Merry Christmas to you?
A forever stamp.
Seeing no other member wishes to be recognized, this business meeting is now adjourned.